Hey, what up, people? How's it going? This is Bharat here. Welcome back to yet another video. Hope you guys are all out there cool and having fun. In this video, I'm going to be discussing about the technicality of Flutter. And in the previous video, we had a very brief and very interesting discussion with Nick Manning, who is the creator of FlutterCrashCourse.com. It was a very interesting discussion. I had learned a lot of things from that video. And interestingly, in one of the questions that I asked, he said like, Flutter is nothing but a simple toolkit that does nothing more than draw something on a canvas. Well, in the heart of Flutter, that's the truth. Like Flutter does nothing more than just draw something onto a canvas, and that's being shown to the user. So I wanted to discuss more about that in this video, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be learning about custom painter. We're also going to be learning about the canvas, the path, and paint widgets in this video. I'm going to be giving you guys as detailed information as possible. So if you're interested, definitely continue watching this video to know more about that. Also, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing for more content on Flutter, and not just that, about other programming languages and even other technologies as well. So let's get this video started straight away. I've got a lot of things to share with you people. Alright folks, this is what I'm going to be sharing with you guys in this video. So we're going to be understanding how to create a simple kind of a custom painter class, and in the meantime, when you try to create that as well, we're also going to be learning more about how the widgets in Flutter work. So the idea behind this is that anything that you take, let's say that you have a piece of canvas on your hand, you can draw anything on that, right? That's exactly how the Flutter also works in the backend. So what exactly does that mean is that, let's say I have a simple paint kind of an object. I'll take a simple paint here. Alright, so I've got a simple or draw kind of an application here. I don't really know what exactly this application is, but I'm going to be showing you guys what exactly happens in the background. Alright, so this, let's assume that this is the canvas that we have, and we want to draw a simple circle on the UI, and this is how exactly the Flutter also works in the background. Everything that it has, like the white background, is considered as the canvas, and anything that you can draw on that is called as the path. Now you can have a path which is nothing but a simple invisible path, and now if you give color to it, you are going to be giving a painted path, and that's exactly what happens. Let's say I want to draw a square. I can give the path. I can give the path as 4 different lines, connected lines. I can mention the coordinates, and it will automatically draw that path for me. And now if I say that I want it to be colored with a blue full, I can just color it here, and it's automatically going to be colored. And this exactly is the heart of how Flutter works. And we could do a lot of things with this if you understand how the canvas, the custom paint widget works. Let's say I want to draw a simple curve. Now let's assume that I have what all of these are called as a perfect shapes, meaning that you can have 4 simple lines, it will connect to a square. If you want to extend that, it will connect to a rectangle. 3 simple lines will connect to a triangle, things like that. Now let's say I want to draw a complex shape. I want to do something like this. I want to do some kind of shape like this, and I want to do a simple line here. I want to do a simple line here, and also connect this line like this. Now if you know, or if you understand how the custom paint works, and also if you understand how the canvases and how all of that work, you will automatically be able to draw that in simple steps. I'm going to be enabling you guys to do that in this video. Even though a lot of people have covered, I haven't seen a video where they've explained custom painter in the heart of how it works. So I hope I can convey that in this video. Let me erase this first. I'll show that. Yeah, let me undo everything, and I'll share with you guys what exactly is the canvas. Now let's assume that I have a simple app, right? I have an app which is having a size of a normal application, maybe 1920 1080p, maybe like that. So let's assume that this is the thing that I want to draw. I want to give a simple square. I'm going to be drawing something like this. So this is the application that we have. And what happens is that the Flutter understands that this is the canvas that you can draw anything on. Now, if you want to draw a circle, it will automatically understand that the path is a circle. And what you can do is that you can move the circle wherever you want inside the canvas only. And that's what the custom paint widget does in the background for every simple kind of a widget that you draw. You want to draw a button, it is going to invoke the custom paint. If you want to draw the maybe you want to draw a container, it's going to invoke the custom paint in the background. Things like that. Everything is finally going to be connected to the custom paint, which will in turn draw things on the UI. Alright, so let's get into the action. We'll write some code and understand how you can actually be able to do simple stuff like this. Maybe draw a circle, maybe draw a triangle, anything you want to on the UI. Now let's go here. I want to be able to, let's assume, let's go ahead and start. Let's assume that what we want. First of all, let's assume that I want to draw a simple line from say point A to point B. Now this is my goal. I want to draw something like this. This is not a line. I want to draw something, probably, let's assume that I want to draw something like this. This is the line. Now for us, we know it's a simple, maybe I selected the rectangle box here and it drew a line, and it's just from point A to point B. It's a 2D plane that you cannot do 3D stuff in Flutter. It's a 2D plane, so you have point A to point B. Now if you want to do the same thing in Flutter as well, I've created a simple application with the stateless widget, and also created something called as Bharat's Painter, because I am the painter here, right? So I'm going to be able to create things, whatever I want to create, onto the canvas. That is the app that we have. Now let's get into the code here. First of all, we have a status widget again, we have a container, and we have created what is the widget that we want, which is called as the custom paint widget. Now the custom paint widget is going to take something called as a painter. Now I'm the painter. I'm going to be drawing whatever artistic feelings I have in my mind into the canvas. So let's get into the custom Bharat's Painter, which is my class. Now Bharat's Painter is now going to extend a class called as a custom painter. Now if you want to draw a custom shape into your screen, you need to be able to extend the custom painter, override it, just do some kind of a basic things on that, draw whatever you want to draw, and you will have the paint on the UI immediately. So we are going to be extending the custom painter, and we have access to two important methods. So one is the paint method itself, and one is the should repaint. I'll tell you what should repaint does actually in some time now. But what the paint does is that it's going to give us access to two important variables. One is the canvas, which is the plane that we have, that's the app size, and second is the size of the entire canvas. Now the canvas can handle two important stuff only. Now let's do a simple thing here. Let's go and write something like canvas dot. If I put dot, it will automatically suggest, let's say, draw. Now it says that I can draw a rectangle, I can draw a circle, I can draw a color, I can draw a direct, anything of that sort. Now the most important thing that I want to be able to draw is a path, which is paint, paragraph, and path. Now I want to be able to draw a path. If I can draw a path, when in our example the path is nothing but a point A to point B, I have actually succeeded in doing that. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be drawing a path for sure. And if you see the requirement for path, it says that the requirement for path is the actual variable path itself, and also the paint of that path. So these are the two important variables. I'm not sure why it's not out of completing it for me here. Yeah, it should be completing it now. All right, it says that path, and it needs a paint as a variable. So it needs two things here. It needs a path variable and also needs a paint variable. Well, let's try to define these two stuff, whatever is being asked. The first thing I'm going to be drawing is obviously the paint. So it's going to be the path itself. So the path variable can be drawn with just simple, let's say, I want to do something like this. I want to create a path variable, and I'm going to be saying that the path is nothing but a simple, sorry, path variable. And next thing I'm going to be doing is the paint, and it's going to be the paint variable. All right, I've instantiated both the path as well as the paint, and it's now time to go and understand what exactly happens. You can either make it as a constant or just make it as a variable. Doesn't matter. Let me make it as a variable because I'm going to be doing few other things down in the background. Now if I pass it directly here, nothing is going to be shown on the screen. Let me just pass the variable path and paint. It will not show anything on the screen. It's just an empty what do you call it, as a null object at this point of time. Even though it has an object, it does not have any kind of a property attached to it. So now what we can do is that we have a path variable, and we can define what the path should be. Now we don't have a color yet, but we can define what the path should be that is going to be required for drawing this stuff. Now I'm going to be saying that path dot draw a line to, it says double x double y, right? Just going to be simple x comma y. I'll say probably from 100, starting from 100, go probably to the value probably 100 and 250. I don't know. Let's do something like this. It should be a double variable, so make sure that it's double. Don't forget to do that. All right, so what I've done is I've written path dot line 2. I've drawn a line from 10.0, which is double value, so I would give it in double, to 25.0, which is again another point on the plane. Now, next thing we can do is we can actually define what the paint should be. Paint is nothing but the color that you want it to give. Let's say I want to give it a color of colors dot, maybe I'll give it as blue. Blue is something that's very easily available. Let's give it blue. And all right, so what you can do is this stroke with is something as simple as, let's say you want a small stroke on the canvas, you will have a very thin brush. And if you want a bigger stroke on the canvas, you'll have a bigger brush, right? So that's simply what you're going to be defining here. Let me give it as a point, maybe 3.0 as the stroke width, right? Make sure that you are giving it properly. Now, what we've done is we have done our line and we also given it a stroke, or maybe we have painted it in some color, and we have passed those two variables inside our canvas.draw path. And what it'll automatically do is that it will define a path and it will automatically even paint. Now, what the use of this should repaint is that, let's say that my widget is going to get refreshed in a stateful widget. Now, the set state method is automatically going to call. I hope you guys know what set state does. It is going to automatically call it's going to ask for it to be repainted, which is exactly what the use of a stateful widget is. Now, what it eventually does is that when you set state, it's going to recall this should repaint. The should repaint will define that if the canvas should be repainted or it should not be repainted. When automatically do that, it's going to give you a new path. And that's how progressively you start creating a motion on the UI. You'll also even create a kind of a simple animation on the UI. Things like that will happen automatically. So that's kind of the insider info with respect to how the Flutter works. Now let's try to run this to see how if we are able to achieve our goal. Let's just have to do is just run this thing on the UI. And but even before you run, just do not forget that we have to give the paint style. If you don't give the painting style, it will not know what it has to do. It should do a fill, it should do a stroke, it will never know. So what we have to do is just give it as a stroke for our example purpose here. So when you run this example, let's see what happens. All right, so it's just a very small kind of a line on the top. I don't know if you can see it. So let me expand it for maybe 100 and 250, and probably you can see it for yourself. And pretty much how the line works. So what we've done is we have tried to draw this. Instead, what we have done is we have drawn a line from here to here. I don't know. I'm not sure. So something like that is being drawn, and that's what that's how the canvas works. So now we've done a simple line, but this is not going to excite me in any form, right? I told you I'll show you guys something super cool in this video. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be playing with something called as the curves. Now the lines are very simple. You have a very standard kind of style to a UI. What we can do is you can play with the curves a little bit, and something called a very very important thing called as the Bezier curves, which is going to make our lives super easy, and it's all create simple artistic UIs. You can create those UIs with just simple kind of command, or maybe I would say simple kind of a mathematics. If you just include simple mathematics, you'll be able to draw super looking Bezier curves. So Bezier curves are nothing but the curves itself. It will have a starting point and it will have an ending point, and it will also have the middle point with which the curve should attach to. Let's say I want to draw a Bezier curve. A Bezier curve will look something like this, and sorry. Okay. So the basic curve looks something like this. I want to draw a simple U on the UI, right? The basic curve will have a starting point. It will also have an ending point. But at the same time, you have to also define a point here with which this A to B should connect. So it by default will automatically do the curve for you. And this curve can be constructed, or it can even be altered. You could do a flat curve like this. You could do a depth curve like this by just adjusting this point up and down the plane. So that's exactly how the Bezier curves work, and we're going to be playing with that Bezier curve and trying to do something very simple on the UI, which is nothing but, let's assume again draw simple. I went away, so I'm going to drawing simple UI like this, and I'm also going to be drawing a Bezier curve that looks like this. Let's draw it from probably here itself. I'm going to drawing a Bezier curve like this, and also going to be drawing another Bezier curve with a simple UI, and I'm going to be creating a good looking kind of an coloring it here and stuff like that, and I'm going to be creating a very good looking pattern on the UI, and that's going to be acting as a top bar for a lot of users you want to use. So pretty much what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be removing this line here. The line is no longer needed. Actually it is needed, but let's remove it for now, and I'm going to be continuing to keep the color blue as my paint, as my primary paint. Let's also do something like this. Let me give it a color of 800. And this is what I'm going to be doing. I don't want a stroke, I want to do a fill. All right, so I'll show you guys how useful that is in some time now. Let's repaint the UI, right? Now, the idea is to actually give a very good paint. And the paint is going to be, again, I've shown you guys that the paint is going to be a good looking blue color. It's also going to have a fill style. Now, time for the path itself. We already have a path variable. So I'm going to be drawing a path variable for you. And the path is going to be looking like something like this, path dot line 2. And we need to do, I said we need to do a simple mathematics to understand where the starting point of this should be. Now we cannot draw a curve without defining where it should end. It should be something like this, right? This is what we're trying to do, meaning that it's going to be from A to B, curve from B to C, C to D, and D to A. Technically, how it's going to be looking like. I'm going to be, I mean, a little bit of mathematics involved. So what we are trying to do is to draw a line from A to B, right? That's what we're going to be doing. So let's draw the first line from A to B, and that line is going to look something like this. Size dot width, comma 0. Right, let's see how this line looks. All right, nothing is going to come on the UI definitely, because what I've said is the size dot width is the entire width, top to 0, which is the starting point, which is nothing. You're not going to be seeing that at all in this space. Now what you can also do is do a simple path dot move to, wherein we are saying move the path to the place that I'm calling it to be moved. So I'm going to be moving it by, let's say that I want to move it by size dot height, maybe by 4. I want to draw it to 1/4 of the size, so that I can control what is going to be happening from there. Now I've moved the path itself to 1/4 of the UI. Now I can control the Bezier curve. It's called as quadratic Bezier curve. Yeah, it's getting quadratic Bezier 2. Is asking for double x, double y, double x2, double y2. I'll tell you what is the values of those things right now. You have to do is that let's give it some point and see what exactly happens. Let's give it a point of, say, probably 500, comma, and you're also going to be giving it a point of 250. No, let's give it 250 here. I'm just guessing what numbers could be, and also going to be giving it a size of probably 500, comma 1/4 of the height. Let's assume this works fine, and also need a path dot line 2 of 0, comma 0. All right, well, let's run it for ourselves. Hope this works fine. It will look ugly, I suppose. All right, it looks really bad. I'll explain what I have to change. Now, for example, we obtained the curve. Now it looks obviously not so cool, and the main reason for that is because of the line 2 that we drew unnecessarily. Now what is going to be happening is that we got this part right. It's come from here to here, but this curve is very small, and that is not what I want. I want this curve to start from here and end here. So what I'm going to be doing is that instead of the 250, which is a static number, I'm going to say draw it for the entire size of width by 2, which is the entire size of width by 2. And I'm also going to control this number here by saying size dot height by 2, and this thing is going to be the size of width. Now let's control and run it here. I'll show you what happens. Awesome, right? Awesome. Now what exactly happened here is that let's go ahead and understand what the quadratic Bezier 2 does. Now the quadratic Bezier 2 requires 4 numbers: x1, x2, y1, and y2. So x1, x2 are going to be the numbers, this number here. It also needs a number here and a number here. But what happens is that the quadratic Bezier 2 method requires the x from this one, x from this one, y from this one, y1 and y2. This is exactly what that method needs. So this number or the value of this could be the height into point the 1/4 of the height, while the width will be 0, meaning that it's on the left side. Comparatively on the other side, this should be obviously uh, size dot width, which is the entire width, comma, the y will be height by 4, right? You got that point. So it's 1/4 of the height, 1/4 of the height. This is the 0 width, this is the end of the width. Now this one will on the other hand be probably this curve, which I want it to be on the middle of the UI. Let's assume that I want the middle of the UI. So I'm going to be saying size dot height by 2, and this will again be size dot height by 2. Make it, this will be size dot width by 2, size dot height by 2. X, Y. I want it to the center of the UI. So that's exactly what I've employed it in that. I've said X for this one, X1 from this one, X1, X2 from this one, Y1, Y2. Let's plug it in here. That's exactly what I've plugged in, and we got X1. This is the X1, X2 from here, Y1, Y2, this portion, Y1 from this, Y1 from this, sorry, Y1 from this and Y2 from this, and we have constructed the quadratic Bezier curve. Now you just go ahead and do something more from here. We have done a simple Bezier curve, and let's say that I want it to be a little more fun. I want to create another kind of a same kind of a depth here. I just want to move this entire thing by 100, right? If you understand this portion, you'll understand the entire stuff. If you want to just move the entire curve by just below maybe 100 points more, all you have to do is just redo the entire stuff before you draw. Let's call it path 1, path 2, sorry, paint 1, paint 1, paint 1, path 1, path 1, path 1, path 1. Now this is the same curve that's being drawn on the top of the UI. You will not be able to see any difference. So for that, we'll just change the color maybe to 400, and the move to is there, right? We got to move it not just by 1/4 of the height. We also need to add another 100 points to it. So the trick here is to always go and add 100 to whatever height you see. We see only 3 heights here. We see the height by 2, so let's go and add another 100, and we see the width. You don't have to touch it, just go and add another 100 here. Now let's see if it gets moved. And also we have to do is make sure that we are drawing it back on the canvas. If you draw the path 1 first, that will be shown first, and if you draw the path 2, it will be drawn on top of that. So we can do is just draw path 1 comma paint 1. All right, let's run it for ourselves to see what happens. Cool, right? It's done the same stuff again. It's actually made sure that it's moved by 100 everywhere. And you could do again one other kind of a layer here. You could do kind of move it here up and down, and pretty much what I want to share with you guys in this video. I hope I did share a lot of things. I hope this was informative. If you wanted to do few more stuff, again, if you wanted to do additional things, you can understand how the Bezier curves work and pretty much how the custom paint can work. You can do anything you want to do. All you have to do is understand what the mathematics is involved. I'm pretty sure that this portion will be a little bit confusing when you start, but take a look into the actual Bezier curve and actual methods itself inside the application, inside the documentation, and you'll find that it's very, very, very simple. Once you understand the mathematics involved, if you can plot it in terms of mathematics, just a simple coordinate geometry. This is x1 comma y1 comma x2 comma y2, and you have these let's consider this x comma y. Now this is not how the Bezier actually works, like this is not how the method works, but what it requires is that it requires the x1 from this requires the y2 from this, and this point itself, and this point is the starting point here. We gave it a size of width by 2, height by 2, followed by the x y1 from here and y2 from here, and pretty much how you construct the entire stuff. And that's important because we got to be able to understand coordinate geometry, and once you do that, you can draw any kind of UI on the canvas. And also one important thing is that this is how exactly Flutter works in the background. There is no magic around it. There is nothing complex being run. It's just a simple GraphQL library. It's kind of a watered down GraphQL library. They have created their own understanding of graphs, and one own understanding of canvas. It's just painting that is happening on the UI. That is not exactly how native code works. If you ask me, in my opinion, native code does not work that way. It does not paint things on the UI. Rather, it actually reconstructs the pixels. I mean, it reconstructs the entire UI pixel. And what happens with Flutter is that it's going to be not going to touch any pixel, just draw on top of the pixel. Everything is going to be drawn on top, 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 top. Nothing is going to happen as such. Like, it's going to completely remove the pixel, draw everything on top. Nothing like that is going to happen. Well, it's kind of a different kind of technology. Like Nick said in the previous video, you gotta appreciate what is going to be good for you. If you're able to do that, if you think the Flutter is going to fit your bill, you can definitely check it out. It's got a great kind of I would say kind of a toolkit. It's been extremely useful for a lot of people. Also, a lot of artistic people. You can design as much as you want, as soon as you understand how the curves and how the canvas and how the custom painters work. And pretty much what I want to share this with you people in this video. I know this was a long video, but I want to give a detailed explanation of how things work, and that's what I did. I hope I did in this video. All right, guys, so that's it for this one. Again, let me meet you in the next one. I've got a lot of new things coming up. If you like this video, you know what to do. Drop a like, share, subscribe to the channel, and let me meet you in the next video. Until then, it's Bharat. Peace out. Have a super awesome day.